The filing cabinets in the records room still have patient files, thousands of them dating back to 1923. I'm digitizing them for the historical archive, scanning page after page of medical records, treatment notes, admission forms. 3 days ago, I found a file with my name on it. Same spelling, same birthday, everything. But the admission date was 1952, and the patient photo was a man who looked exactly like me. Not similar, identical. Same face, same scar on my chin from when I fell off my bike as a kid. The file said he was admitted for temporal displacement delusions and believed he was from the year 2024. I thought it was some kind of elaborate joke until I found more files. My sister's name, Bryn Hendricks. My mother's name, Patricia Hendricks. My best friend from college, Jordan Wilkes. All admitted to this asylum in different decades, all with the same diagnosis, temporal displacement delusions. All claiming to be from the future, and all of them died here. The files have death certificates. My file, the 1952 version of me, died during a standard procedure on November 3rd, 1952. That's tomorrow's date, 72 years ago, tomorrow. Last night, I woke up in the asylum, not in my apartment in Benton, in one of the patient rooms, in a bed with restraints hanging from the frame. I was wearing a hospital gown. My phone was gone. My keys were gone. And when I ran to the door, I saw a nurse in a 1950s uniform walking down the hall. She smiled at me and said, "Good morning, Mr. Hendricks. Are you ready for your procedure today?" I ran. I ran until I found an exit, and I'm writing this from a coffee shop on Tiger Boulevard. But my reflection in the coffee shop window is wrong. I'm wearing the hospital gown, and everyone around me is dressed like it's 1952. My name is Dalton Hendricks, and I took this job 4 months ago because I needed the money. The Arkansas Historical Preservation Society hired me to digitize patient records from the old Benton County unit, what used to be part of the Arkansas State Hospital system before it shut down in 1998. The building sits empty on the edge of town, red brick and broken windows, surrounded by overgrown fields where they used to grow vegetables for the patients. The work is simple. Scan documents, upload them to the database, box up the originals for climate-controlled storage. They gave me a badge, keys to the building, and a list of protocols. 6 rules printed on yellow paper, taped to my desk in the 3rd floor records office. I need to tell you what those rules are, because I broke one of them, and now I can't tell what year it is anymore. I started working at the asylum on July 15th. The Historical Preservation Society sent me to meet Dr. Eleanor Voss, the project director, at her office on Main Street in Rogers. She was maybe 60, with reading glasses on a beaded chain and ink stains on her fingers. The Benton County unit closed 26 years ago, she told me, sliding a folder across her desk. But the records are still there. Everything from 1923 to closure. We need them digitized before the building is demolished next spring. She handed me a ring of keys, 5 brass keys on a loop with a green tag that read, BCU, Records Access. "You'll be alone most days," she said. "The building isn't safe for tours anymore. Asbestos in the walls, lead paint, structural damage to the west wing. But the 3rd floor is stable. That's where the records office is." I took the folder. Inside were employment papers, a liability waiver, and a single sheet of yellow paper titled Site Protocols, Mandatory Compliance. 6 rules, typed in courier font. 1. Work hours are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. only. Exit the building before sunset. 2nd, stay in the 3rd floor records office. Do not enter patient rooms or treatment areas. 3. If you hear voices, do not respond. Continue your work. 4. The elevator is not functional. Use the east stairwell only. 5. If you find a file with a current date, place it in the red box on your desk. Do not read it. 6. If you see staff in period uniforms, leave the building immediately through the east exit. These rules seem, I looked up at Dr. Voss, specific. The building has a history, she said, not meeting my eyes. People who work there alone sometimes report disturbances, auditory phenomena mostly, the structure settling. But we've had workers quit. These protocols help. Auditory phenomena. Old pipes. Wind through broken windows. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The building isn't haunted, Mr. Hendricks. It's just old and empty. Follow the protocols and you'll be fine. I drove out to Benton the next morning. The asylum sits 2 miles past the Walmart on Highway 72, down a gravel access road lined with cedar trees. The building is 3 stories, red brick gone rust-colored with age. Most windows are broken or boarded. The grounds stretch out behind it. 20 acres of what used to be farmland, now just tall grass and crumbling outbuildings. I parked in the gravel lot. The padlock on the front door was new, brass and shiny against the weathered wood. My key turned smoothly. Inside smelt like mildew and old paper. The lobby had a reception desk covered in dust, chairs with torn upholstery, and a bulletin board still pinned with notices from 1998. Medication schedule updated. Employee picnic, June 14th. Reminder, patient confidentiality. The east stairwell was behind a heavy fire door. I climbed 3 flights, my footsteps echoing in the concrete shaft. Each landing had a small window looking out over the grounds. The 3rd-floor hallway stretched in both directions. Patient rooms with open doors, offices with names still on plaques. Dr. Raymond Sutter, MD. Occupational therapy. Group sessions. The records office was at the end of the hall, marked with a handwritten sign. Archives. Inside, 4 filing cabinets, a wooden desk, a scanner connected to a laptop, and a metal folding chair. Someone had left supplies, boxes, labels, a thermos that still smelled like old coffee. The window faced east, looking out over the fields. On the desk was a red metal box, about the size of a shoebox, with a hinged lid. I set down my backpack, taped the yellow rules sheet to the wall above the desk, and got to work. The files were organized by decade. I started with the 1920s, faded manila folders, handwritten notes in fountain pen, black and white photos clipped to intake forms. Names I didn't recognize. Diagnoses that sounded archaic. Melancholia, hysteria, moral insanity. By lunch, I'd scanned 200 files. By 3 p.m., I'd worked through the 1930s and started on the 1940s. That's when I heard the first voice. A woman, somewhere down the hall. Not words, just humming. A tune I almost recognized, like something my grandmother used to sing. I remembered Rule 3. If you hear voices, do not respond. I kept scanning. The humming stopped after a few minutes. I worked until 3:45 p.m., then packed up. The drive back to my apartment took 20 minutes. I didn't think much about the humming. Old buildings make sounds, pipes settling, wind finding gaps in the walls. I went back the next day, and the day after. The work was boring but steady. Scan, upload, box. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. The voices came and went. Sometimes humming, sometimes footsteps in the hallway. Once, I heard what sounded like someone crying in one of the patient rooms, I never responded. I followed the rules. Until 3 days ago, when I found the file with my name on it. October 29th, Tuesday. I was working through the 1950s files when I saw my name, not similar, not close, exact. Hendricks, Dalton James. The tab was yellowed, the handwriting in blue ink. I pulled the file out, told myself it was a coincidence. Hendricks is common enough in Arkansas. Dalton's not rare either. But the intake form had my birthday. April 7th, 1992. Except this form was dated January 14th, 1952. Patient photo attached. A man in his 30s, thin face, dark hair. Looking directly at the camera with an expression I recognized because I'd seen it in my own mirror. Not quite smiling, not quite scared. Trying to look normal when nothing feels normal. The scar on his chin, small, crescent-shaped. From falling off my bike when I was 7, needing 3 stitches at the ER in Bentonville. Same scar, same placement, same fucking face. I sat there holding the file, trying to find an explanation that made sense. Maybe it was photoshopped, some kind of test to see if I'd report finding it. Maybe someone had broken in, planted this as a prank. But the paper was old. Really old. The kind that crumbles at the edges when you touch it. The typewriter ink had that faded look that takes decades to develop. I read the intake notes. Patient admitted by family following incident at Benton County Library. Claims he is from the future and does not belong in this time period. Exhibits confusion about current events, unable to identify President Truman, insists Dwight Eisenhower is president. Election not for another year. Showed librarian his cellular telephone, small rectangular device with a glowing screen, which he could not produce upon admission. Family reports patient has been experiencing these delusions for 3 weeks. Diagnosis: temporal displacement syndrome with acute psychotic features. Notes from Dr. Raymond Sutter, dated through October 1952. Patient continues to insist he is from 2024. Describes technology that does not exist. Internet, social media, GPS navigation. When asked to prove claims, becomes agitated. Says his phone disappeared. Says everything disappeared when he woke up here. Treatment plan: electroconvulsive therapy, twice weekly. The last entry was November 2nd, 1952. Patient scheduled for standard procedure tomorrow morning. Prognosis poor. Recommend continued observation post-treatment. Death certificate stapled to the back page. Date of death: November 3rd, 1952. Cause: cardiac arrest during treatment procedure. Attending: Dr. Raymond Sutter, MD. November 3rd. That's tomorrow. I should have put the file in the red box. That was Rule 5. If you find a file with a current date, place it in the red box on your desk. Do not read it. But it wasn't a current date. It was 72 years ago. I kept reading. The treatment notes mentioned other patients. I saw a name I recognized and felt something shift in my chest. Hendricks, Bryn Elizabeth, my sister. Born 1994. The file was dated 1978. I found it in the cabinet, pulled it out with hands that wouldn't stay steady. Same thing. Same face. 28 years old in the photo. Dark blonde hair like Bryn wears it now. Admitted for temporal displacement delusions. Claimed to be from 2024. Died during treatment. March 19th, 1978. Hendricks, Patricia Ann. My mother. File dated 1943. Age 52 in the photo. Older than my mom is now, but the resemblance was there. Same eyes. Same way of holding her mouth like she's biting back something she wants to say. temporal displacement delusions. Died June 8th, 1943. Wilkes Jordan Michael. My best friend from college. File dated 1987. Age 31. We met freshman year at the University of Arkansas. He's 32 now, lives in Fayetteville, works in IT. The photo showed him thinner, hair longer, but the same Jordan. Same crooked smile. Temporal displacement delusions. Died October 15th, 1987. I spread the files across the desk. 4 people I knew. 4 different decades. All admitted to this asylum. All claiming to be from 2024. All dead. The light through the window had shifted orange. I checked my watch. 4:17 p.m. Past sunset. I'd broken Rule 1. I grabbed the files, shoved them in my backpack. Thought about the red box, about Rule 5, but I needed these files. I needed to show someone. Dr. Voss, the police, someone. I left the records office, headed for the east stairwell. The hallway was darker than it should be. The sun was setting behind the building, throwing long rectangles of orange light across the floor from the patient room doorways. Footsteps behind me. Not mine. I'd stopped walking. I turned around. A nurse stood at the other end of the hall. White uniform. White cap with a red cross on it. The kind nurses wore in old photos from the 40s and 50s. She was maybe 40. Dark hair pinned back, holding a metal clipboard. She smiled at me. "Mr. Hendricks," she said, "you're late for your session." Rule 6. If you see staff in period uniforms, leave the building immediately through the east exit. I ran. Down the hallway, through the fire door, into the stairwell. My footsteps echoed off concrete. I took the stairs 2 at a time, one hand on the railing. Second floor landing. First floor landing. Ground floor. I hit the exit door hard, burst out into the parking lot. My truck was gone. The gravel lot was empty, except for 3 cars I didn't recognize. A blue Plymouth sedan, a green Ford pickup with rounded fenders, a black Studebaker. All of them from the 1940s or 50s. Chrome bumpers and white wall tires and no car made after 1960. I turned back to the building. The windows weren't broken anymore. They were intact, clean, with curtains. Lights on in several rooms. A sign above the entrance that hadn't been there this morning. Benton County Unit, Arkansas State Hospital. Visitors report to reception. The sun had set. The sky was purple dark with the last light fading over the fields. I heard the door behind me open. "Mr. Hendricks," the nurse's voice. "Please come back inside. Dr. Sutter is waiting for you." I ran again. Away from the building, down the gravel road, toward Highway 72. My legs felt weak, like I'd been running for hours. The backpack with the files bounced against my shoulders. By the time I reached the highway, my lungs were burning. I bent over, hands on my knees, trying to breathe. When I looked up, I was standing on Tiger Boulevard in Benton. Streetlights overhead, cars passing, modern cars with LED headlights and license plates from 2024. The coffee shop across the street had its sign lit up. Mountain Valley Roasters, open till 10 p.m. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. My truck keys were in my pocket. My phone was in my hand, showing 6:43 p.m., Tuesday, October 29th. I went into the coffee shop, ordered something I didn't taste, and sat by the window to write this down. But when I looked at my reflection in the dark glass, I was wearing a hospital gown. Thin cotton, faded blue, with BCU property stamped on the chest. And the people in the coffee shop, barista, 2 customers at a corner table, a woman on her laptop, were all dressed like it was 1952. long skirts, suit jackets, hair styled in ways I'd only seen in old photos. They looked at me like I belonged here, like nothing was wrong. My phone screen showed 6:43 p.m., October 29th, 2024. But the calendar on the coffee shop wall said November 2nd, 1952. Tomorrow is November 3rd, the day I die. I tried calling my sister. Bryn lives in Little Rock, works as a nurse at UAMS. She picks up on the second ring usually. The phone rang 6 times, then a voice I didn't recognize. Hendrick's residence. Not Bryn's voice. An older woman, accent thick and country, the kind my grandmother had. "I'm looking for Bryn Hendricks," I said. Silence. Then, "There's no Bryn here, son. You got the wrong number. This is 501555047, right?" "That's right, but..." I hung up. Tried my mother. Same thing, wrong voice, confused response, quick hang up. Tried Jordan. The number just rang and rang, no voicemail, no answer. I checked my contacts. All the names were there. All the numbers looked right. But when I scrolled through, I noticed something. The photos attached to each contact were different. Not the pictures I'd assigned. These were older, grainier, black and white or faded color. Like someone had replaced my contact photos with pictures from decades ago. My mom's photo showed her in a dress with shoulder pads, hair curled in those tight waves from the 40s. Jordan's showed him in a leather jacket, standing in front of what looked like a wood-paneled station wagon. I looked around the coffee shop again. The barista was wiping down the espresso machine. Except it wasn't an espresso machine. It was a percolator, chrome and glass, the kind my aunt had in her kitchen when I was a kid. She'd bought it at an antique store. The woman on the laptop wasn't using a laptop. She was typing on a typewriter, portable model in a leather case, clicking away at the keys. The calendar on the wall still said November 2nd, 1952. But my phone said October 29th, 2024. I stood up, left cash on the table, a $20 bill, and walked out. Outside, Tiger Boulevard looked normal. Street lights, traffic lights, a Dollar General across the street, its yellow sign lit up, cars in the parking lot, a Nissan, a Chevy Silverado, a Honda Accord. But when I turned to look back at the coffee shop, the building was different. Smaller. A hand-painted sign. Valley Cafe. No neon. No modern logo. Just the name in white letters on dark wood. I walked to where I'd parked my truck that morning. The lot behind the old post office building. My truck was there. Blue Ford F-150. Dent in the passenger door from where I'd backed into a mailbox last year. I got in. Started the engine. The radio came on, already tuned to a station I listened to most mornings. Classic rock. Except the DJ's voice was different, and the song playing was something I'd never heard. Big band music, horns and drums. I switched it off, drove. I needed to get home. My apartment was in Rogers, a 15-minute drive north on Highway 71. I needed to sit down, think through this, figure out what was happening. The highway looked right. Gas stations, fast food places, Walmart supercenter. But the details kept shifting. One moment I'd see a McDonald's with its modern logo. Next moment it was a burger stand with a different name, red and white striped awning. I kept driving. Made it to Rogers, found my apartment complex off Walnut Street. The building looked the same. 2 stories, brick, green doors. I parked, went up the outside stairs to my second-floor unit. My key worked. The door opened. But inside was wrong. The furniture wasn't mine. Heavy wooden pieces, dark finish. A floral couch I'd never seen before. The TV was one of those old console models, wood cabinet with a tiny screen. No cable box, no game console, no bookshelf with my stuff on it. If you like the stories, please hype the videos from a button like this just above the comment section. It helps the videos to get more reach and perform well. It would take just a few seconds and cost nothing, but would help the channel grow even faster. Thank you. The kitchen had a gas stove, white enamel chrome details, a refrigerator that hummed loud and had a handle you had to pull hard to open. Inside, milk in glass bottles, eggs in a cardboard carton, a covered dish with something that might have been meatloaf. I checked the bedroom. The bed was different. Iron frame, chenille bedspread. But my clothes were in the closet. Jeans, t-shirts, my work boots on the floor. On the nightstand, a newspaper, Benton County Daily Record, the date, November 2nd, 1952. Headline: Local man dies at state hospital. Family questions treatment methods. I picked it up. The paper felt real, not like a reproduction. The ink smudged slightly when I touched it. The article was short. Dalton James Hendricks, 31, of Benton died yesterday at the Benton County Unit of Arkansas State Hospital during what staff described as a routine procedure. Hendricks had been a patient at the facility since January, admitted by family members who reported he was suffering from delusions. His sister, Bryn Hendricks of Little Rock, told the Daily Record she believes her brother's death was preventable. "He wasn't crazy," she said. "He was trying to tell us something was wrong, and nobody would listen." Hospital Administrator Dr. Raymond Sutter declined to comment on specifics, but stated all procedures followed proper medical protocols. Hendricks is survived by his mother, Patricia Hendricks, and sister. Funeral arrangements are pending. My hands started shaking, not just trembling, actually shaking, like I couldn't hold the paper steady. I put it down, backed away from the nightstand. This was wrong. All of this was wrong. I wasn't dead. I was standing here, breathing, thinking. I could feel the carpet under my feet, smell the musty air of an apartment that wasn't mine. I went back outside, knocked on the apartment next to mine. Old Mrs. Pruitt lived there, had been there for years. She'd helped me move in, brought me a casserole my first week. The door opened. A young woman stood there, maybe 25, wearing a dress with a full skirt and an apron. She looked at me expectantly. "Yes?" "I'm looking for Mrs. Pruitt," I said. "There's no one here by that name. I'm Evelyn Walsh. I've lived here since June." "Since June of what year?" She frowned. 1952. "Are you all right?" I backed away, mumbled an apology, went down the stairs, got back in my truck. The radio turned on by itself when I started the engine. That same big band music. A voice between songs. "You're listening to KFAY, Fort Smith, broadcasting live this Saturday evening, November 2nd, 1952. I turned it off again. Sat there in the parking lot, trying to breathe normally, trying to think. My phone buzzed. Text message from a number I didn't recognize. "You need to come back. The procedure is scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. If you're not here, we'll have to send someone to get you. No name, no signature, just that." Another message. "Dr. Sutter is very concerned about your absence. You understand that leaving without permission violates your admission agreement." I deleted both messages. Tried to block the number. But when I opened my settings, the phone date had changed. It now read November 2nd, 1952, 8:47 p.m. I changed it back to October 29th, 2024. Watched it immediately revert to November 2nd, 1952. The files were still in my backpack. I pulled them out, spread them across the passenger seat. Mine, Bryn's, my mother's, Jordan's. All dated different years, all with the same diagnosis, all ending the same way. But there was something I'd missed before. A note in my file, handwritten in the margin of the last page. Different handwriting than the official notes, smaller, cramped. Patient exhibits awareness of temporal loop structure. Claims he has lived through this before. Says he woke up wearing a hospital gown in the coffee shop. I knew immediately what was happening. Maintains previous version of himself. Left warnings in patient files but cannot remember details. Recommends immediate procedure before pattern reinforcement becomes permanent. Below that, another note in different ink, like it had been added later. Subject shows signs of integration failure. Cannot maintain coherent timeline. Slipping between 1952 and claimed origin year, 2024, every 6 to 8 hours. Physical form stable, but temporal signature degrading. If procedure fails, recommend containment protocol. I read it 3 times. Integration failure, temporal signature, containment protocol. None of it made sense, but all of it felt true in a way I couldn't explain. My phone buzzed again, same number. We're sending the ambulance. Please don't run. It only makes the slipping worse. Through the windshield at the far end of the parking lot, I saw headlights. An ambulance, white with a red cross on the side. Old style, rounded edges, chrome bumper. It was coming toward me, slow and steady, like it knew exactly where I was. I started the truck, put it in reverse. The ambulance was blocking the main exit, so I cut across the grass, drove around the back of the building, found the access road that led to Walnut Street. In my rearview mirror, the ambulance turned to follow. I drove south. Away from Rogers, away from Benton, away from the asylum. Highway 71 took me through Springdale, past the Tyson headquarters, past strip malls and car dealerships that kept shifting between modern and vintage the longer I looked at them. The ambulance stayed behind me. Not close, maybe a quarter-mile back, but constant. Never speeding up, never falling behind, just maintaining that exact distance. I needed somewhere public, somewhere with people, somewhere that might still be real. Fayetteville, the University of Arkansas campus. That's where I'd gone to school, where Jordan and I had met. If any place felt solid to me, it would be there. I took the exit onto Martin Luther King Boulevard, drove past the stadium, turned onto campus. Everything looked right. The brick buildings, the senior walk with its thousands of names carved into the sidewalk, the old main tower lit up against the night sky. I parked near Mullins Library. The main entrance was still open, students going in and out with backpacks and coffee cups. I grabbed the files, left my truck, went inside. The lobby was the same as I remembered. High ceilings, study tables, circulation desk. But the details kept sliding. One moment the computers at the desk were modern flat screens. The next they were those old beige monitors with curved screens. The students looked normal. Jeans, hoodies, sneakers. Then they'd shift, and I'd see leather jackets, rolled up dungarees, saddle shoes. I went to the 3rd floor, the archives room where they kept local history, old newspapers, university records. If I was going to understand what was happening, I needed information about the asylum, about Dr. Sutter, about temporal displacement syndrome. The archives were closed, but the door was unlocked. Inside, rows of filing cabinets, microfiche machines, bound volumes of old newspapers, a single desk lamp casting yellow light across a reading table. I found newspapers from 1952. Started searching through November issues of the Benton County Daily Record. November 3rd, 1952. My death was front page. Hospital patient dies during treatment, investigation pending. November 8th. Family demands answers in hospital death. State board reviews procedures. November 15th. No charges in hospital death. Medical board finds no wrongdoing. Then nothing. The story disappeared, like it had been forgotten. But in December issues, I found something else. A small article, back page. Second patient death. Reported at State Hospital. Brim Elizabeth Hendricks, transferred from Little Rock facility, died December 18th during treatment. Hospital staff declined comment. Hendricks was sister of Dalton Hendricks, who died in November under similar circumstances, December 1952. But her file said she died in 1978. I kept searching, found more. Patricia Ann Hendricks died June 1943. But there was another article from 1952, March 14th. Patient dies following electroshock treatment. Family calls for investigation. Patricia Ann Hendricks, my mother's name, died March 13th, 1952. Jordan's name appeared in September 1952. Patient death raises questions about hospital safety. They all died in 1952, not spread across different decades like their files showed, all within the same year, all at the same hospital, all treated by Dr. Raymond Sutter. I spread the articles across the table. 4 deaths, 4 people I knew, all in 1952. But their files showed different dates, different years spanning from 1943 to 1987. Someone had changed the dates, or the dates were changing themselves, or dash dash, or time wasn't working right. I pulled out my phone. The screen showed November 2nd, 1952, 10:23 p.m. I'd been in the library for over an hour, but it felt like minutes. I searched for information about temporal displacement syndrome. Nothing. No medical papers, no case studies, no Wikipedia articles. Like it didn't exist outside the asylum. But then I found something. A book in the archives. Psychiatric Conditions of the Mid-Century, a reference guide, published 1955. I flipped through it, found a chapter on temporal delusions and dissociative states. Temporal displacement syndrome first identified at Arkansas State Hospital, Benton County Unit, 1948. Patients exhibiting this condition report memories from different time periods, inability to maintain consistent timeline awareness, and physical symptoms including spontaneous temporal shifting. Dr. Raymond Sutter pioneered treatment methods utilizing electroconvulsive therapy combined with temporal recalibration techniques. Early results were promising. Patients showed initial improvement with reduced shifting events and stabilized timeline coherence. However, long-term outcomes were poor. Mortality rate approached 100% within 6 months of diagnosis. Cause of death typically listed as cardiac arrest during treatment, though autopsies revealed no cardiac abnormalities. Dr. Sutter theorized that certain individuals possess consciousness structures incompatible with linear temporal flow. These individuals experience life across multiple timelines simultaneously, creating psychological stress that manifests as physical symptoms. His controversial integration protocol attempted to force consciousness into a single timeline through controlled electrical stimulation. The protocol was discontinued in 1953 following patient deaths and ethical concerns. Dr. Sutter retired that same year. Current location unknown. 1953. The year after I died. After all of us died. I heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Slow, steady. Coming toward the archives room. I shoved the book in my backpack with the files, moved to the door, looked out through the small window. A man in a white coat stood in the hallway. Late 50s, gray hair, glasses. He carried a leather medical bag. Dr. Sutter. I recognized him from a photograph I'd seen in one of the files. Same face, same build, but he should be dead. If he retired in 1953, he'd be long gone by now. Unless I wasn't in now. He walked past the archives room door, didn't look in. Kept going down the hallway toward the stairwell. I waited until his footsteps faded. Opened the door carefully. Looked both ways. The hallway was empty. Different than it should be. Darker, older. The fluorescent lights were gone, replaced with fixtures that looked like they belonged in the 50s. The floor was different too. Tile instead of carpet, scuffed and yellowed. I went the opposite direction from where Sutter had gone, found another stairwell, took it down to the ground floor. Came out in a hallway I didn't recognize. The building layout had changed, doors in different places, signs pointing to rooms that shouldn't exist. I followed the exit signs, found a door, pushed through it. Outside was wrong. Not campus, not Fayetteville. I was standing in the gravel parking lot of the asylum. The building loomed in front of me. 3 stories of red brick, lights on and several windows. My truck was gone. The modern cars were gone. Just those vintage vehicles. Plymouth, Studebaker, that green Ford pickup. The asylum sign was lit up. Benton County Unit, Arkansas State Hospital. I turned to run, but the parking lot went on forever. No highway, no road. Just gravel extending in all directions, fading into darkness. Like the asylum existed in its own pocket of space, disconnected from everything else. Behind me, the front door opened. Mr. Hendricks. Dr. Sutter's voice, calm, almost kind. I know you're frightened, but running only makes the slipping worse. You're already exhibiting advanced temporal fragmentation. If we don't stabilize you soon, you'll lose cohesion entirely. I turned around. He stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the light from inside. The nurse from before was next to him, still holding that metal clipboard. You're experiencing what we call cascade failure, Sutter said. Your consciousness is bouncing between timelines, trying to find where it belongs. But you don't belong to just one time, Mr. Hendricks. You're spread across 70 years. Every version of you, every moment you've existed, they're all trying to occupy the same space. That's what causes the pain, the confusion. He stepped out onto the gravel. Closer. The integration protocol can fix this. We've refined it since the early trials. The success rate is much higher now. Everyone died, I said. My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from far away. All your patients died. In that timeline, yes. But there are others. Timelines where the procedure worked, where patients stabilized and went home. You've seen those timelines, haven't you? Brief glimpses, moments where everything feels normal. He was close enough now that I could see his face clearly. Tired eyes, deep lines around his mouth. He looked old in a way that went beyond age, like he'd lived too long, seemed too much. I can help you, he said, but only if you come back inside. Only if you let us finish what we started. The parking lot seemed to tilt under my feet. I felt myself slipping again. The air tasted different, smelled different, like ozone and old paper and something metallic I couldn't name. How many times? I asked. How many times have I been here? Sutter looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, This is your 43rd admission. Most patients only manage 3 or 4 before they fragment completely. You're remarkably resilient. But even you have limits. The nurse stepped forward. In her hand, a syringe. Clear liquid catching the light from the building. "This will help with the slipping," she said. "Make the transition easier. You won't feel the procedure. You'll just drift. And when you wake up, you'll be home. Your real home. The timeline where you belong." I backed away. My heel hit gravel. The parking lot felt wrong under my feet. Too solid. Too real. Like I was standing on something that wanted to hold me in place. "Please," Sutter said, "don't make us do this the hard way." Behind them, in the asylum windows, I saw faces. Patients looking out. And they all looked like me. I ran again. Away from Sutter. Away from the nurse with the syringe. Away from the asylum. The gravel crunched under my feet, loud in the silence. No crickets. No wind. Just my breathing and my footsteps, and the sound of my heart trying to punch through my ribs. The parking lot kept extending. No matter how far I ran, the edge never got closer. The asylum stayed the same distance behind me, lights burning in those windows, all those faces watching. Then I wasn't running anymore. I was standing in a patient room. Small, maybe 10 by 12 feet. Single bed with a thin mattress, metal frame, no pillows, a wooden chair in the corner, one window with bars across it. I was wearing the hospital gown. Cotton against my skin, rough and worn thin from too many washings. The door opened. Sutter came in, carrying a clipboard. Behind him, an orderly. Young guy, maybe 25, muscular build. He stayed by the door. "Good morning, Mr. Hendricks," Sutter said. "How are you feeling today?" "I want to leave." My voice came out hoarse. "You can't keep me here." "You admitted yourself voluntarily, January 14th, 1952. Your family brought you after the incident at the library. Don't you remember?" I didn't remember. But I did. 2 sets of memories. One where I'd never been here before, where I'd just started working in the records office. Another where I'd been a patient for months, where I'd tried to show people my phone, where they'd looked at me like I was losing my mind. "The procedure is scheduled for 9 o'clock, Sutter said, checking his watch. "We have about 20 minutes. Is there anything you'd like to talk about before we begin?" "I'm not crazy." "No one said you were crazy, Mr. Hendricks. You have a medical condition, temporal displacement syndrome. Your consciousness doesn't align properly with linear time. That's not madness. It's biology, brain chemistry, something we can treat." He sat down in the wooden chair, crossed his legs, looked at me like a teacher trying to explain something to a slow student. "Think of time like a river," he said. "Most people flow along with it, one moment to the next, birth to death, everything in order. But some people like you, they don't flow. They skip, jump backward and forward, experience moments out of sequence. It creates strain." "The files," I said. "My file said I died November 3rd. "In one timeline, yes. In this timeline," he gestured around the room, "we're trying to prevent that. The integration protocol has improved significantly since the early trials. Mortality rates are down to 30%. That's not better. It's better than 100%, which is what happens if we do nothing. Without intervention, temporal displacement patients fragment completely. Their consciousness spreads so thin across so many timelines that they essentially cease to exist. Not death, exactly. More like diffusion. Spreading out until there's nothing left." He stood up, walked to the window, looked out over the grounds. "You've been coming here since 1948, he said. "Different versions of you. Different timelines. Some you remember, some you don't. Each time we try the procedure. Each time it works for a while. You stabilize. Go home. Live your life. But eventually, the displacement returns, and you come back." The room tilted. Not physically. My body stayed upright. But everything else shifted. The walls looked darker, then lighter. The window bars appeared and disappeared. Sutter's face flickered like a badly tuned television. "You're slipping again," he said. "It's getting worse. We need to proceed." I felt it. The pull, like standing on the edge of a cliff while the ground crumbled under my feet. I could feel other moments trying to occupy the same space as this one. Other versions of this conversation. Other rooms. Other years. Suddenly, I was in the records office, sitting at my desk with a file open in front of me. The scanner hummed. The window showed afternoon light. October 29th, 2024. Then back in the patient room. Sutter watching me, making notes on his clipboard. Then somewhere else entirely. A different patient room. Same layout, different details. The bed was on the left instead of the right. The window looked out over a parking lot full of cars I didn't recognize. Not vintage, not modern. Something in between. 1970s maybe. Boxy sedans with chrome bumpers. A woman sat in the chair, not Sutter. Younger, maybe 40. Dark hair pulled back. White coat. Name tag. Dr. Jennifer Rourke. "Mr. Hendricks, can you hear me?" she asked. "Who are you?" "I'm your psychiatrist. We've been working together for 3 weeks. You were admitted on September 18th. Do you remember?" I remember Dr. Sutter. "Dr. Sutter retired 20 years ago. I'm your doctor now." The room shifted again. Back to the 1952 version. Sutter standing by the door, orderly waiting in the hallway. "Time to go," Sutter said. Another shift. I was in a treatment room, leather restraints on a table, machines I didn't understand, dials and switches and electrodes. The nurse from the hallway stood nearby, preparing equipment. Shift. The coffee shop on Tiger Boulevard. Sitting at my table, laptop open, typing the story, people around me dressed normally, cars outside driving past with modern license plates. Shift. Walking through the asylum hallway. Not 1952. Not modern. Somewhere in between. The walls were painted yellow instead of institutional green. Different notices on the bulletin boards. New medication protocols, 1987. Employee safety training, mandatory. I passed a patient room, looked inside. Jordan sat on the bed. My Jordan. Same face, same crooked smile. But his hair was longer, pulled back in a ponytail. He wore jeans and a Razorbacks t-shirt that looked faded and worn. He looked up at me. "Dalton?" I stopped. "Jordan, what are you doing here?" "Same as you, I think. Trying to figure out which timeline is real." He stood up, came to the doorway. "I've been here for 3 months, or 3 years, or 3 days. It keeps changing. Do you have that too?" "Yeah." Dr. Rourke says it's treatable. Says the new protocol works better than the old one. Less mortality. He laughed, but it sounded wrong. Hollow. She showed me the files. All the times we've been here before. You, me, your family. We keep cycling through. Shift. Back to the treatment room. I was lying on the table now. The restraints were buckled across my chest, my wrists, my ankles. The nurse leaned over me, placing electrodes on my temples. "This won't hurt," she said. "You'll just feel a brief pressure, then sleep. When you wake up, you'll be home. I tried to move. The restraints held. Sutter appeared in my field of vision. We're ready to begin. Standard protocol. Low voltage to start. Increase gradually until we see timeline stabilization. The machine behind me hummed. I felt something building, like static electricity, but inside my head, behind my eyes, in my teeth. Shift. I was standing in my apartment in Rogers, my real apartment. The furniture I recognized, my TV, my books. Jordan was there sitting on my couch, drinking a beer. We were watching a game, Razorbacks versus LSU, and Jordan was yelling at the screen about a bad call. Everything felt normal, real, right. Then I looked down and saw the electrodes still attached to my temples, wires trailing down, disappearing into nothing. My wrist had a hospital bracelet, Hendricks Dalton J., D.O.B., April 7th, 1992, admitted January 14th, 1952. "Jordan," I said, "can you see the wires?" He looked over. "What wires?" Shift. The treatment room, voltage increasing. My body arched against the restraints, pain like lightning branching through my brain, every nerve firing at once. Shift. The coffee shop. Writing this down, hands shaking so badly I could barely type. Shift. The records office, filing cabinet open, my hand reaching for another folder. The tab read, Hendricks Dalton James, admission date, November 3rd, 2024. November 3rd, 2024. Today, not 70 years ago. Today. I pulled the file. The photo showed me exactly as I looked now. Same clothes, same expression. The admission notes were dated this morning. Patient self-admitted at 7 a.m., claiming to have found files from 1952 with his name. Exhibits acute temporal confusion. Believes he has been experiencing events across multiple timelines. Initial diagnosis: severe dissociative disorder with temporal fixation. Recommend immediate evaluation. At the bottom, handwritten. Patient began working in records office 4 months ago as part of integration therapy. Has been a resident patient since 2019. Continues to believe he is an employee rather than patient. 2019, 5 years. I'd been here 5 years? I looked up from the file. The records office door was closed, locked from the outside. The window had bars I hadn't noticed before. My phone buzzed. Screen showed November 3rd, 2024, 8:47 a.m. Text message from Dr. Voss. "Dalton, we're ready for you in treatment room 3. Please come down to the 2nd floor. It's time." I tried the door, locked, banged on it. "Let me out." Footsteps in the hallway, getting closer. I went to the window. The grounds outside looked different. Not overgrown and abandoned, maintained, green grass, trimmed hedges. A few people walking between buildings, some in white coats, some in hospital gowns. The asylum wasn't abandoned. It never had been. The door opened. Dr. Voss stood there, but she wasn't alone. Behind her, Sutter, the nurse, 2 orderlies. "I think we need to accelerate the timeline," Voss said quietly. "He's fragmenting faster than expected." Sutter nodded. "Agreed. Let's proceed immediately." They came into the room. I backed against the file cabinets. Nowhere to go. No way out. The nurse had the syringe again. "This will help," she said, moving closer. "Just a light sedative. Make the transition easier." My vision flickered. Multiple timelines overlapping. I saw myself on the treatment table, saw myself running through the parking lot, saw myself sitting in the coffee shop, saw myself in the patient room talking to Jordan. All happening simultaneously, all real, all me. The needle touched my arm. The sedative felt like cold water spreading through my veins. Not painful, just wrong. Like my blood had been replaced with something that didn't belong. The room blurred. Faces swam in and out of focus. Voss saying something I couldn't hear. Sutter making notes. The orderlies guiding me, carrying me out of the records office. Hallway, stairs, more hallways. Everything stretched and compressed like a rubber band pulled tight, then released. Then I was on the treatment table. Leather restraints across my chest, wrists, ankles, the same ones I'd seen before, or would see, or was seeing. Time didn't feel linear anymore. It felt circular, folded, like a piece of paper creased so many times the original shape didn't matter. Sutter attached electrodes to my temples. "You're going to feel some discomfort," he said. His voice came from far away and very close at the same time. "Try to stay calm. Fighting the integration only makes it worse." "What are you integrating?" My tongue felt thick. Words came out slurred. "All of you," he said. "Every timeline. Every version. Right now you're scattered across 70 years. 43 different admissions. Each one created a new branch. A new possibility. We're going to collapse those branches. Bring everything together. One consciousness. One timeline. One you. What if I don't want that?" He paused, looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. "Then you'll keep fragmenting until there's nothing left to fragment. This is the only way to stabilize you." The machine hummed. That same sound from before, like electricity waiting to happen. "Beginning integration protocol," Voss said. She stood at a control panel, hand on a dial. "Phase 1, low voltage. The current hit. Not pain exactly. More like my brain was being pulled in 43 different directions at once. I could feel the other timelines, the other versions of myself, all trying to exist in the same moment. 1952. Dalton on the treatment table, dying from cardiac arrest. 1978. Dalton in a different patient room, talking to a psychiatrist I didn't recognize. 1987. Dalton walking through the grounds, trying to find an exit that kept moving. 2019 Dalton in the records office, believing he was just starting his first day of work. 2024 Dalton in the coffee shop, writing this story, thinking he'd escaped. All of them me, all of them real, all of them happening now. Increase to phase 2, Sutter said. The voltage jumped. My body tried to arch against the restraints. I tasted copper, smelled something burning. The timelines started bleeding together. I was in the treatment room, and the coffee shop, and the patient room, and the parking lot all at once. My body existed in multiple spaces, multiple moments. I could feel the leather restraints and the coffee cup handle and the gravel under my feet and the hospital gown and my jeans and everything simultaneously. "He's integrating," Voss said. "Timeline convergence at 40%. My vision split, fractured, like looking through a kaleidoscope. I saw the ceiling of the treatment room overlaid with the sky outside the coffee shop, overlaid with the bars on the patient room window. All of it occupying the same space, the same moment. And I saw them, all the other versions of me. Not reflections, not hallucinations. Real people standing in the treatment room watching. 43 versions of Dalton Hendricks, all different ages, all wearing different clothes. Some in hospital gowns, some in street clothes, some in uniforms I didn't recognize. They were all strapped to tables identical to mine, all experiencing the same procedure, all trying to integrate, and one by one, they were disappearing. The voltage would hit, and a version would flicker out. gone, absorbed, integrated into whatever I was becoming. Phase 3, Sutter said. The current increased again. This time the pain was real, sharp, like my skull was being peeled open from the inside. I heard myself screaming, all of me, all 43 versions, screaming in unison across 70 years. More versions disappeared. 1952. Dalton flickered out with a final gasp. 1963 Dalton. 1971 Dalton. 1995 Dalton. Each one collapsing into me, their memories flooding in. I remembered dying in 1952. The electrodes on my temples, my heart stopping. The ceiling tiles above me. Sutter's face. The nurse saying, "Time of death, 9:47 a.m." I remembered dying in 1978. Different procedure. Same result. Cardiac arrest. Same tiles. Different doctor. I remember dying in 1987, and 1993, and 2006, and 2011. Every timeline, every attempt, every death, but I also remembered surviving. Timelines where the procedure worked, where I woke up and went home and lived for months or years before the slipping started again, where I got married, had kids, grew old, then felt the pull, and came back to the asylum for another integration. All of it had happened. All of it was real. Timeline convergence at 70%, Voss said. He's stabilizing. Sutter leaned over me. Almost there, Mr. Hendricks. Just a little more. Let it happen. Don't fight. But I was fighting, because I could see what they couldn't. The integration wasn't fixing me. It was erasing me. Each version that disappeared took part of me with it. Memories, personality, the things that made me who I was. By the time they finished, I'd be stable, but I wouldn't be Dalton anymore. I'd be some averaged-out version, a composite, a compromise between 43 different lives that never quite aligned. I'd be someone who'd never really existed. Stop, I tried to say, but my mouth wouldn't work. The sedative had paralyzed everything except my mind. More versions flickered out. 2013 Dalton. 2018 Dalton. Only a handful left now. Then I saw her. My sister, Bryn, standing in the corner of the treatment room, watching. But not watching me. Watching one of the other versions. A Dalton from some other timeline where she'd been part of the integration too. "You can stop it," she said. Not to me directly. To all of me. To every version at once. You just have to remember what you really are. What am I? I asked, thought, screamed. Not scattered, she said. Distributed. You're not broken across time. You're expanded across it. That's not a disease. It's evolution. Sutter noticed her. Who let another patient into treatment? I'm not a patient, Bryn said. She looked at me, all of me, and smiled. I integrated 3 years ago, but I didn't collapse. I expanded. I exist in every timeline now, every version of the hospital, every year, and so do you if you stop fighting it. That's not possible, Voss said. The human consciousness can't sustain that kind of distributed existence. It can, Bryn said. You've just been trying to force everyone into the wrong shape. Trying to make us linear when we're not. Some of us are bigger than one timeline. We're supposed to spread across them. It's not a bug, it's an upgrade. She stepped closer to my table, to all my tables, across all the timelines. Stop trying to be one person, she said. Accept that you're all of them. 43 Daltons, all real, all you, not separate, not broken, just distributed. Phase 4, Sutter said, reaching for the dial. Maximum voltage. This should complete the integration. Don't let him, Bryn said. If you collapse into one timeline, you'll die. Really die. Not just that version, all of you. Because you're not designed to exist in just one moment. You need all of them. The voltage started to climb. I could feel it building. The final push that would either stabilize me or kill me, or turn me into someone else entirely. I had a choice. Collapse. Become one person in one timeline. Safe. Stable. Linear. Normal. Or expand. Accept all 43 versions. Exist in all of them simultaneously. Distributed across 70 years. Never entirely in one place or one time, but always everywhere. Always whole. The voltage peaked. I stopped fighting. Not to give in. To spread out. Instead of letting the timelines collapse into me, I expanded into them. Let myself exist in all 43 moments at once. Not integrated, distributed. The treatment room exploded. Not physically, but every timeline split apart, separated, became distinct again. All 43 versions of me on their separate tables in their separate years, still connected. Still one consciousness, but not compressed, not forced together, distributed. I could feel all of myself now. 1952. Dalton getting up from the table, restraints unbuckled. 1978, Dalton doing the same. 1987. 1995. 2006. 2024. All of me. All real. All aware. Sutter staggered backward. What did you do? I stopped trying to be just one person, I said. All of me, all at once. 43 voices in 43 years. Voss stared at the monitors. His temporal signature. It's not collapsing, it's expanding. He's existing in all timelines simultaneously. That shouldn't be possible. But it is, Bryn said. She looked different now. Clearer, like I was seeing her across multiple timelines too. We're the next step. Humans who exist in 4 dimensions instead of 3, not trapped in linear time, spread across it. I stood up. All of me. 43 versions of Dalton Hendricks standing in 43 different treatment rooms across 70 years. And I walked out, all of me. Together. The rules on the yellow paper made sense now. They weren't to protect us from the asylum. They were to protect the asylum from us. Walking through the asylum as a distributed consciousness was like seeing through 43 pairs of eyes at once. Every hallway existed in multiple states. 1952, 1978, 1987, 2024, and all the years between. I could see them overlaid, transparent like sheets of tracing paper stacked together. In 1952, the walls were painted institutional green, bulletin boards full of patient schedules and treatment protocols. Nurses in white uniforms walked past, carrying medication trays. In 1987, the walls were yellow, the lighting brighter, fewer patients in the halls. Staff wore modern scrubs instead of the old uniforms. In 2024, the building was empty, abandoned, dust covering everything. The asylum I'd first walked into 4 months ago, thinking I was just an archivist. But I hadn't been an archivist. I'd been a patient who'd convinced himself he was an employee. Integration therapy, they'd called it. Let the patient believe a comfortable fiction while they work toward stabilization. I found Jordan in a patient room. Not one Jordan, several. Different ages, different years, all occupying the same space. Some aware of each other, some not. The 1987 version looked up when I walked in. Dalton, you look different. I'm distributed now, like Bryn. I exist in all the timelines at once." He laughed, but it sounded exhausted. "How?" I stopped trying to collapse. I just let myself be everywhere. I sat down on the bed next to him, across multiple timelines, multiple versions of me sitting next to multiple versions of him. "You can do it too. You just have to accept that you're not supposed to be linear." They said I'd die if I didn't integrate. They're wrong. Integration kills you. Slow erasure. You become someone you never were. I looked at him across all the years. But distribution, that's different. That's accepting what you really are. In 2006, Jordan was older, grayer. He looked at me with recognition. I tried this before. In 1994, Sutter said I had a psychotic break. Put me through 3 months of electroshock until I agreed to integrate. "He doesn't understand," I said. "None of them do. They think we're broken because we don't fit their model of how consciousness should work. But we're not broken. We're just different." A door opened down the hall. Multiple doors, multiple timelines. Dr. Voss walked in, different versions of her, different ages, but all wearing that same expression of concern mixed with scientific curiosity. "Mr. Hendricks," she said, all of her, speaking in unison, "you need to come back to the treatment room. What you've done is unstable. You can't maintain distributed consciousness indefinitely. The human brain isn't designed for that kind of load." "Then why am I doing it?" "You're not. Not really. You're experiencing a brief window of expanded awareness before your consciousness fragments completely. This is the stage right before final dissolution. We've seen it before." She held up a tablet. Different devices across different years, but all showing the same data. Your temporal signature is oscillating. In approximately 14 hours, you'll lose cohesion entirely. Bryn didn't. Bryn is an exception, one in several thousand. Most patients who attempt distribution last less than a week before they vanish. Not die, vanish. Their consciousness spreads so thin, it stops being coherent. They become background noise in the temporal structure. Ghosts that never fully existed. She stepped closer. Multiple versions of her, all urgent, all trying to save me in their own way. "Please," she said, "let us complete the integration. You can have a normal life. One timeline, one body, one continuous existence. Isn't that better than dissolving into nothing?" I stood up. All of me. Looked at her across 70 years of timelines. "Show me the others," I said. "What others?" "The ones who distributed successfully." Bryn said she integrated 3 years ago, but that was a lie. She distributed. And she's not the only one, is she? There are others. People who figured out how to exist across multiple timelines without dissolving. Voss hesitated. Across all the timelines, all her versions showed the same moment of uncertainty. "That's classified," she finally said. "I'm distributed now. I can see through doors, through walls, through time. You can't hide information from someone who exists in multiple moments at once." I walked toward her, through her, my 2024 version passing through her 1987 version. "I can see the basement, the room you don't put in the employee manuals, the one with the monitors." Her face went pale across all timelines. I left Jordan's room, walked down the hall, down the stairs. My body, all my bodies, moved through the building like water through cracks, finding paths that only existed in certain timelines. The basement door was locked in most years, but in 1998, during the closure, it hung open. I walked through that timeline, stepped sideways into 2024, and found myself in a concrete corridor that shouldn't exist. The monitoring room was at the end. steel door, keypad lock. But the 1998 version was broken, smashed during the evacuation. I walked through that timeline, shifted to 2024, and I was inside. Banks of monitors covered every wall. Old CRT screens in some timelines, flat panels in others, but all showing the same thing. People. Hundreds of people. Different ages, different genders, different races. All of them existing in multiple timelines simultaneously. All of them distributed. And I recognized some of them. My mother, Patricia. Not just the version from her file. Dozens of versions across decades, all aware, all connected. She looked at a camera in 1943 and mouthed, "Help us." Jordan. Not the scattered versions I'd just seen upstairs. Fully distributed versions, aware across all timelines. He looked at a camera in 1987 and said, "We keep dying. We can't find the right timeline." Bryn, my sister, looking at a camera in 1978 and 2003 and 2019 simultaneously. Time is breaking down. There are too many of us now. A map on the wall showed 12 locations marked with red pins: Arkansas, Montana, Vermont, Oregon, California, New Mexico, and 6 others I couldn't read. Under the map, a label: Temporal Stabilization Sites, Global Network. Each site had a counter showing active distributed consciousness patients. Arkansas, 347. Montana, 512. Vermont, 289. The numbers kept changing, flickering between different values. Footsteps behind me. I turned. Voss stood in the doorway. Behind her, Sutter and 3 people I didn't recognize. All of them distributed. I could see their multiple versions overlaying each other. "You weren't supposed to find this," Voss said. "What is this? What's really happening?" Sutter stepped forward. He looked tired in a way that transcended any single timeline. "We're trying to contain a crisis. For the past 70 years, people have been born with temporal displacement. 1 in a million initially. Now it's 1 in 10,000, and accelerating. Why? We don't know. But time itself is destabilizing. Linear causality is breaking down. More people are experiencing consciousness across multiple timelines because the barriers between those timelines are eroding." He gestured to the monitors. These facilities were designed to help. Integration therapy was supposed to stabilize patients, keep them in one timeline. But it doesn't work long term. They always come back. So some of us, he indicated himself, Voss, the others, we chose distribution instead. We maintain the facilities across multiple timelines, trying to help patients navigate their condition. "But we're losing," Voss said quietly. "Every year, more people develop temporal displacement. Every year, fewer successfully integrate or distribute. Most just fragment, dissolve. And when they do, they damage the temporal structure further, creating more instability, more displacement. It's a feedback loop." One of the other distributed staff members, a woman I didn't recognize, pointed at a monitor. "This is footage from the other 11 sites," she said. "Watch." The screens flickered, showed different facilities, different countries, different time periods, and in every single one, I saw my face, not just me. Dozens of me. Hundreds of me. Different genders. Some female, some neither. Different ages, children, elderly, everything between. Different races, different bodies, but all with something essential that I recognized. The same consciousness, the same temporal signature. All of them looking at cameras, all of them saying the same thing. "Help us. We keep dying. We can't find the right timeline. My legs gave out. I sat down hard. My body, all my bodies, suddenly too heavy. "What are you showing me?" Sutter crouched down next to me. "You're not unique, Dalton. You're not even rare anymore. You're a pattern. A consciousness template that keeps manifesting across multiple bodies, multiple timelines, trying to find a stable configuration. That's not possible. It shouldn't be. But temporal physics is collapsing. The rules that govern cause and effect are breaking down. And when they do, consciousness behaves in ways we never predicted. It replicates, distributes, spreads across not just time, but across different physical manifestations." He stood up, walked to the monitors. "These are all you," he said. "Every single one. The same consciousness trying to exist in hundreds of different bodies across thousands of timelines, searching for the one configuration that works. The one timeline where you can exist stably." On the screens, all the versions of me continued their pleas. All desperate, all trapped, all dying. "How do I stop it?" "We don't know," Voss said. "That's why we need you to integrate. You're the first version we've seen who achieved full distribution without immediately fragmenting. If we can study you, understand how you did it, maybe we can help the others. Maybe we can stop the cascade before time collapses completely." I looked at the monitors, at all those versions of myself, all suffering, all lost. And I realized the truth. The asylum wasn't trying to help us. It was trying to contain us. We weren't patients. We were symptoms of something much larger breaking down. I'm writing this from somewhere between 1952 and 2024. Both. Neither. All of it. Sutter gave me access to the complete files, not just mine, everyone's. The full archive spanning 12 facilities across 70 years. And I found the truth. Dalton James Hendricks died on April 7th, 1999, age 7. Hit by a car outside Bentonville Elementary School. DOA at Northwest Medical Center. That's me. That was me. The original me. But consciousness doesn't work the way we think it does. When I died, when that 7-year-old boy's heart stopped, my awareness didn't end. It scattered, bounced, tried to find somewhere else to exist. It found the asylum, found the temporal weak point created by 70 years of integration procedures, found the cracks in time itself, and it started manifesting. Different bodies, different years, all trying to live the life I'd lost, all searching for a timeline where I survived that car accident. Every admission was another attempt. Every death was my consciousness giving up on that particular timeline and trying again somewhere else. 1952. Dalton died during treatment, and my awareness jumped to 1978, then 1987, then 2006. 43 attempts across 70 years. And I wasn't alone. The files showed hundreds of others like me. People who died young and whose consciousness refused to accept it. Children who drowned, teenagers in car accidents, adults with sudden aneurysms, all of them bouncing through time, trying to find a timeline where they survived. The asylum wasn't creating the problem. It was responding to it. Sutter explained it like this. Time has scars, places where the fabric is weak. This building is one of them. It attracts displaced consciousness, like a wound attracts infection. We're not trying to cure you. We're trying to teach you how to exist within the wound without making it worse. Bryn was right. Distribution isn't a disease. It's adaptation. Learning to exist across multiple timelines because you can't exist in just one anymore. I spent weeks or years, depending on which timeline you're measuring from, learning to stabilize myself, not collapsing into one moment, not fragmenting into nothing, just existing in all the timelines simultaneously, aware and coherent. And when I succeeded, they offered me a position. "We need people who can move between timelines," Voss said. "People who can monitor the stabilization sites, help other displaced patients, track the expanding crisis. You're the first successful distribution we've had in 5 years. We need you." I accepted. Now I work for them, the organization Sutter and Voss belong to. No official name, no government recognition. Just a loose network of distributed individuals trying to manage the breakdown of temporal causality. I travel between the 12 sites, help patients understand their condition, teach them distribution techniques, document the accelerating rate of displacement cases, because it is accelerating. What started as 1 in a million is now 1 in 5,000. Last month, we identified 3 new stabilization sites that appeared spontaneously, places where time is weak enough that displaced consciousness can slip through. And the manifestations are getting stranger. Yesterday, I visited the Montana facility. They showed me surveillance footage from all 12 sites. I saw myself. Hundreds of versions. Thousands. Different faces, different bodies, but all carrying the same essential pattern. The same consciousness that started when 7-year-old Dalton Hendricks died in 1999. Female versions, male versions, people who weren't either, children, elderly, every age between, every ethnicity, every body type, all of them looking at cameras across different decades, all of them saying, "Help us. We keep dying. We can't find the right timeline." Not all me, exactly, but all iterations of the same template, the same pattern of displaced consciousness trying to manifest in physical form. And not just me. I saw versions of Jordan, my mother, my sister, all multiplying across timelines and bodies. "What does this mean?" I asked. The site director, a distributed woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, shook her head. "It means time isn't just breaking down. It's fracturing, creating copies. Consciousness is bleeding across dimensional barriers we didn't know existed." She pulled up a graph, the exponential curve climbing sharply upward. "At current rates, within 5 years, 1 in 100 people will manifest temporal displacement. Within 10 years, 1 in 10. The asylum system can't handle that volume. Most will fragment before we can help them. So, what do we do?" She looked at me across multiple timelines, her expression grim in all of them. "We figure out how to teach 7 billion people to exist outside linear time, before time collapses completely and takes reality with it." I'm still distributed, still working, still trying to help others like me learn to exist in the spaces between moments. But every day I see more versions of my own face looking back at me from surveillance feeds. More displaced consciousness trying to find stable form. More proof that whatever is happening, it's not stopping. Time itself is dying, and we're the first generation forced to learn how to live in its ruins. If you're reading this and experiencing temporal displacement, find the nearest stabilization site. We can help you, teach you distribution, show you how to exist without fragmenting. But hurry, the timelines are collapsing faster than we can stabilize them, and soon there won't be anywhere left to exist at all.